guys, welcome back to Dragon Exotics, and today we are going to be talking about feather maintenance in birds, whether it be the wild birds, parrots, macaws, like fumble. Everyone's joining us today. Guess it's a fun topic. And we're going to be discussing how they do that feather maintenance. Now, birds do what we call preening, and there are two forms of this preening. The initial form is where they will run their beaks through their feathers, and if you see the anatomy here, they will run their beaks through each individual feather and make sure that those barbules are perfectly aligned so that they can have a nice, crisp looking feather. So I may have an example for you right here. So we have all these feathers that are perfectly aligned, and when they're doing this, they're not only aligning their feathers so that if they were in the wild, they would be more attractive to a mate because they look friendly and they look healthy, but they do this to their feathers so that they can remove any dirt or dust that has accumulated on those individual feathers. In some cases, they're removing mites as well. That's not to say that if you have a mite infestation on your bird's feathers, that preening is going to solve the problem. Sometimes you need to go to a vet for that, but it does keep those feathers pretty healthy. The second way that birds preen is through the use of what we call a uropygial gland. Yep, you heard me, a uropygial gland. And write down in the comments if you guys have heard of this before. It's one of my favorite parts of the bird's anatomy, and I find it pretty interesting. If you don't know, it is a bilobed sebaceous gland that secretes these diester waxes, so like uropygials, fatty acids, and other things like that, that is then secreted into this waxy oil substance. Now, here, you want a treat? Yeah, they want a treat. Now, this substance is produced and kind of spread out onto this little uropygial wick, which you can see in this picture here. I have a comparison of embers, which I got a nice picture because he stayed still for it. You can see that we have the uropygial gland towards the top. You can just see the nub of it coming out of the body. You won't be able to fully see this unless that bird is missing feathers on that spot, or if their uropygial wick feather has been removed. Normally you can't fully see it, but what you can see is like what I have shown here in ember, and sometimes when it's not spread out, you can see it this way in fumbles. Now let's say that you have a really wiggly bird and you're like, I cannot see this. I can feel a little nub back there towards their back. Here, fumble, just stay up there. Towards their back, kind of at the base of those tail feathers, it'll be a little nub. So if you're not able to spread out those feathers and see what it looks like, it might look like this. The poor quality lighting, you might see that oil just in a little spot on those feathers. That's Donald, my Pekin duck, and it might just look like that. But pay attention to these closer up pictures. That is a more accurate representation of what a healthy uropygial gland may look like. Back to the point, birds use this substance from that uropygial gland to preen their feathers. All right, and we're back. So birds will utilize this uropygial gland when they preen. There is a spot at the end of that uropygial gland that ends in little papules. That's what secretes the oil, and the wick feather is attached to that. So they will run their beak across that spot where the oil could be produced, and they will proceed to rub that oil all across their body. And what this does is it helps waterproof their feathers, and some say that it actually has antibacterial properties as well to help keep those feathers safe. Now, there can be problems with the uropygial gland, but normally a healthy uropygial gland should look like the ones I showed you in the pictures, and your bird's feathers should look nicely arranged. They should still be somewhat waterproof. What are you guys doing? And they should be free from mites, dirt, debris, or anything abnormal. Now, a playful bird, like Fumble, who sometimes gets too carried away playing because she is young and forgets to preen as much as she should. May have a little bit of tattered feathers down here. You can see there's a few barbules, maybe just a little bit. Oh geez, there we go. There's a few of her barbules that aren't as aligned as I would want them to, but that's not the biggest concern. You would be more concerned in a bird that if they are having tattered feathers everywhere, none of the feathers are aligned, there's dirt in their feathers. One noticeable sign would be if their vent, where the poop comes out, if that is crusty with urates, that white substance that comes out, then you might want to get them checked out because they should be preening in general and keeping all those feathers clean. So normal Uropygial gland, they're going to be maintaining feather health, keeping those feathers waterproof and nice and beautiful. This video is getting progressively difficult with the birds trying to intervene and get my attention. As you can see, Ember is definitely trying to jump on me. They're just a little too excited right now. But as I was saying, Uropygial gland should normally look very healthy, pink, no extra crusting, no inflammation, no bleeding. It should not look like that. However, there are a few things that can go wrong. For example, if you're feeding your birds an all-seed diet, not only is that generally bad for the bird because of the amounts of fats, but it's also lacking vitamins that they need to be healthy in general. Hypovitaminosis A is a common problem with all-seed diets. And when they lack vitamin A, they can actually get plugs in that Uropygial gland. Yep, we're going to go right there, buddy. We're not playing with her right now. But you can get plugs in that Uropygial gland, and that can cause them to not be able to preen properly, and it can lead to messed up looking feathers, they're tattered, and they just don't look well. Another issue that can present is if they didn't get enough sunlight outside, because sunlight is very important for birds. They're always flying outside if you think about wild birds. And the sunlight is important for their bodies to synthesize vitamin D. And vitamin D is actually used inside of that Uropygial gland as well because it's healthy for skin and bone development and to maintain that. Vitamin D also is important because it plays a role in the feathers in general, and when you bring your birds into the natural sunlight, their feathers are going to look vibrant and so much brighter than they would if you just kept them inside all day for their entire life. So keep that in mind. Moving on. So another common issue that birds can get in that Uropygial gland area, or the gland itself, is unfortunately some species like parakeets or some other small birds like cockatiels, they may be prone to certain cancers of the Uropygial gland, such as a squamous cell carcinoma or an adenocarcinoma. And that can, of course, it's cancer, so it may cause issues with that preening gland, the production of the oils, and they won't be able to preen properly because they don't have the oils to do so. Lastly, one important thing when it comes to bird feather health is that you want to make sure you're bathing your bird. You want to bathe them at least once a month, and I like to offer a bath for my birds at least once a week. All right, buddy. At least once a week, and if they deny it, then that's okay. I'll try again. If they enjoy it, then that's even better. I find birds to be, besides their destructive behavior and the poop they leave on the ground, I think birds themselves are clean creatures. They are preening constantly. They take baths in the wild a lot. They're pretty clean. I think they're fine. They don't even have, I can't smell the bird smell. I know there is one, but I can't smell it. I bathe my birds a lot. It keeps the dust and dander down to a minimum. It helps them feel healthier because the less dust they have floating around the room or around them minimizes the chance of them getting respiratory issues because of those fine particles, and you don't want them to breathe that in, and then it gets stuck in their air sacs and lead to further issues or respiratory disorders. So I like to bathe my birds a lot. It helps improve the feather quality in general, keeps everything clean, and can keep that uropygial gland pretty healthy. Sorry for rambling on a little bit too much in this video. If you guys just wanted to come here to this section of the video because our attention spans are short and you didn't want to watch the whole entirety of the first part, well, that's fine too. But anyways, we learned that a uropygial gland is a bilobed, sebaceous gland that produces a waxy, oily substance and is located at the base of a macaw's tail. This lovely uropygial gland has a wick feather attached right at that tip where the oil kind of sinks into. These birds will run their beaks along that uropygial gland and wick feather, spread that oil all around their feathers, removing debris, keeping it clean, waterproofing those feathers, and ultimately making them look beautiful and attractive to the mates in the wild. In addition, they need that sunlight to help produce vitamin D and synthesize that vitamin D so that the uropygial gland can fully do its job, keeping skin and bones healthy and helping with that feather growth, making those feathers look vibrant and bright. It's lovely. Now, fun fact that I did not mention in the beginning of the video, and I feel like some of you should know, if you are looking at your bird and you're like, oh my gosh, my bird doesn't have a uropygial gland, are they okay? Should I bring them to the vet? Well, I want you to ask yourself a few things. Is your bird an Amazon parrot? Is your bird a hyacinth macaw? Is your bird a pigeon or a dove? If you answered yes to any of those questions, you should probably know that those species do not have a uropygial gland, and they just don't use that oil to preen themselves. They use mostly their dander and their down to keep themselves clean and healthy. However, baths are always encouraged for all those species. That's about it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and maybe learned something about how birds take care of their feathers. And join me next time for more bird, reptile, or who knows what species. Facts about everything. See you guys next time. Thanks for watching. Bye.